So I've got some tiger's eye. Now tiger's eye is quite soft really, so I'm going to be limited to what I can tumble with it. Otherwise you're just going to smash it to bits. But I think I've got enough to fill this barrel. So I'm just going to test that now. I mean, that's more or less perfect in there. You're looking to get this barrel about 2/3 full. Now I think I might be able to get a bit more in there. Just happen to have some red tiger's eye as well, so I want to put that in. Right. So that's what we've got, look. That's up to about there in rock. You see that? Up to about there in rock. So what I'm going to do now, on top of that, I'm going to put some grits in it. And the grits I'm going to use, I'm going to start off with 80 grit, which is pretty coarse material. This is the stuff that you would find stuck to sandpaper. Now for this amount of rocks, and there's about 3 and a bit pound in there, I'm actually going to use 5 tablespoons of grit. But because as usual I can't find my spoon, I'm going to have to use my lid. So I'm going to call that a tablespoon. That's level lid. Right, I'm going to call that 5 tablespoons and a little bit for the sandman. Right, the other thing I'm going to put in there, this is not required, it's just all I do it, is I'm going to put a little bit of borax in there, like that, perhaps a couple of tablespoons. And what that's going to do is it's going to make the liquid that we're putting in there more viscous, and that's going to make the grit stick to the stones. So as soon as the stones touch each other, they're going to start grinding straight off because they're going to be basically coated in it like jam. That's the idea anyway. So I'll just put some water in here, show you how much you need. So that's how much water I've got. Hopefully you can see that's just below the level of the rocks. You see that? You don't want too much water in there, but you want enough so that it sloshes a little bit. You see that? So that's my phone. And really all we've got to do now is seal this barrel. And we can start tumbling. Now I'm going to turn this on just so it gets a little bit warmed up, so it's going to get a little bit noisier. Not too much, is it? Now to get this back in, you have to line it up as best you can, and then basically just push it level with the top. Make sure it's nice and level, give it a squeeze all the way around. Now I'll show you this. You can see the top of that. Not this, forget this, this is where the rubber band's going to go. This we're on about. This is perfectly level and flat. There's no bits stuck up and there's no bits depressed. So that's nice and stuck up. Now this is one of the piece I was telling you that's the most difficult part for me, because you need an extra set of arms. And that's getting this plastic band on. So we put it round there, this is the best way I've found. Put it round there and stretch your fingers as wide as they'll go. And roll it. Like that. There we go, we're on. It's a little bit of a toe, but that seal is very important because that's actually the bit that makes this sealed. Without that it's probably going to leak. Now this machine does actually run a little bit warm. There is a notification that comes with the instruction manual that you get, which you'll see here. Which basically it will tell you that this engine runs a little bit hot. So don't worry about that, but you mustn't put it inside a cupboard or anything over top of it because it will overheat. So I think we're about running on that, and what you've got to do, you don't put your drum on when it's stopped and start it, you put your drum on while it's already moving. That's what we're going to do now. Right, so these have been tumbling for 5 days, which is not very long, but as I've already said, these are quite a soft stone. I actually peeked at them yesterday and noticed that they were actually almost all ready, if you like, for the next stage. Now bearing in mind that we've also got another 220 stage to go at, there's still a little bit of grinding that we can do at that stage. But effectively I'm hoping that most of these are going to be ready for moving on to that stage. So I'll switch it off so you can hear me talking. There you go, although it's not that loud anyway. So let's have a quick peek inside the barrel and see what's been going on. Now this is full of tiger's eye. What I'm actually going to do with this, to keep it simple for myself, is I'm going to roll that rubber band down the shaft. Like so. You see that? I've just rolled it down. And then we'll have a look inside our pot. Ooh, it's like chocolate, look. And that's what you can see. Very good. So let's get these in the sieve, give them a rinse and see what we've actually got so far. These are our stones. Let's give them a tip out and see what we've actually got. Very, very thick liquid, which is a good sign because it means that they've been doing its job. It's been chewing. That's the barrel, as you can see, it's full of chocolate. And give these stones a little rinse. Ooh. Mirror on the wall. Who's got the nicest rocks of them all? Now you can see how rounded these have become in just 5 days, and that's because, like I said, this is a softer rock than the quartz or anything like that. And if I keep tumbling these, all that's going to happen is they're going to get smaller. There are one or two, such as that one, which has got a crack. Well, it's not a crack, but it's a fissure. We'll call it a fissure. So what I'm going to do with these is I'll go through them. Now bearing in mind that there is a little bit more grinding to be done at the 220 stage, but I don't think it's going to be enough to grind that out. Again, that one's got quite a deep fissure, and that's because it's slightly undercut. Can you see that? I don't know if it's picking it up. You see how it goes in there? So it's difficult for a stone to get in there to grind. That's why that's remains. But a lot of these are fairly smooth. They're certainly delicious looking. Give them a quick zoom in a little bit for you. Is that focused? Let's try and focus it a bit better for you. There you go. Set. So that's what you've got, look. It's amazing, isn't it, that rock? It's absolutely, it's like silk inside the rock. And that's a piece of red tiger's eye. Incredible, isn't it? But you can see how much they've ground down. Now, bearing in mind, I think they've had 5 days. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick some out of here, which I think I've got it ground enough, and we'll put the rest back into the barrel after I've cleaned it. I'll show you that in a sec. Right, so they're coming on really well. And that's what we've actually still got left in the tub, and as you can see, it's gone down considerably. And that's because I've removed about a half of the stones, which are now considered ready to go on to the next stage. So I'm going to keep them in water so they don't dry out. That's just in case there's any grit stuck to them. We don't want grit to dry onto them because it's going to dry like concrete. And that's what we've got left. Now I can't just use this barrel like this because it won't function, because it's got to be 2/3 full. So you could either use some filler or obviously some more of the same rock, if that's what you want to do. I ain't got no more of this tiger's eye, otherwise that's what I'd do. But what I have got, I can't use anything harder because it will batter these to death. But I can use something that's softer. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use some of this sunstone. So this sunstone is going in here with this tiger's eye, and this sunstone is marginally softer than the tiger's eye. So it's going to do an excellent job of filling it at the same time as it's going to get ground out. So that's what I'm going to do. The aim is to get it back up to 2/3. That's just about right, isn't it? So there we are. I like that. That's 2/3 full. That's up to there. We're more or less where this band is. So what we're going to do with that, we're going to put some grit back in. And we're still on 80 grit. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 for the pie man. Just because I like to. And then I'm going to put some more borax in, because it did an excellent job. No measuring, just you know, roughly, I don't know, a couple of tablespoons. And then we can add some more water. Again, we're only just covering them stones, or just below the surface. Like that. Stuck up like little icebergs. And then we can replace the lid. Like so. Making sure it's nice and flat all the way around. And if you squeeze it like this, while you're turning it, it helps to settle it centred. Right, so now that's there, we can roll this rubber band. Remember I rolled it down, back up. And that'll just snap straight into that groove. Easy peasy. So that's now ready, so I'm going to switch the machine back on just to get it going. I know it's still warm because it's only taken a few minutes this. But yeah, we're ready to go now, so we can just dry this barrel, remove any excess. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to give this another, I don't know, 3 days. I'll give that another 3 days. And then we'll check it again, and hopefully the rest of the tiger's eye will be able to join this, and then we can combine it all back into this on the 220 grit. So I'll see you in 3 days. Right then, so I'll turn this off so you can hear me. It's now been another 6 days, I get it another 6 days since we removed the original lot. These are now ready for the 220 grit. So we're going to now see what's in this barrel and see if these are now ready, or if some of these are ready. I'm hoping that they're pretty much mostly ready to go on to the next stage. So let's have a look in the sieve. We'll do the usual. We'll just roll this rubber seal down. Like so. Makes it easier to put back on. And we can crack this seal now. Again, we've got chocolate. So let's pour this out into a colander and see what we've actually got. That's the pour of the liquid. It's a slightly more grey colour this week. That's the stones. We'll get some water on them. Ooh. As if by magic. Right, so let's just take a closer look at some of these. It's a nice big chunk. That's like a brown mahogany. That's the remnants of some of that hematite I was telling you about. You know, the stuff that looks slightly metallic, like iron. Beautiful. Now I can see there's a lot of these that are ready. You know, perfectly smooth. When I say perfectly smooth, what I mean is there's no chips and cracks. There's a lot of this is ready. That one's not. You see what I mean? That one's got a crack in it there. Can you see it? So that's not fit for moving on yet. But an awful lot of these are. So I'll rinse them off and then we'll see what's ready to go back in. Right, so these are the stones that I've deemed ready to be moving on to the next stage, which is the 220 grit. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put these back in the barrel and we'll see what space we've got in that barrel. Got our stones ready now. These are the ones that are ready to move on. I'm going to turn the machine on just so that it's going. Oh, depending on how much noise it makes, let me just... Oh, that's alright. So what I'm going to do now is put these stones back into the barrel. And like I said, the reason I'm saying these are ready is because all of the deep cracks and chips have now gone. It might be irregular shapes still, but there's no deep cracks. I've also thoroughly washed these stones several times so that there's no grit moving forward with the stones, because obviously that's going to just defeat the object. Even the little stones will put in. Right, so that's the state of the barrel. Now as you can see, we haven't got a full barrel anymore. Bear in mind that it was full when we started, and then we've added another bag of this pink stone, this sunstone. They've all shrunk down now. So you can either do one of two things at this stage. If you've got some other stones that are already at this stage of the same hardness, then you can fill it up with that. I haven't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to top it up with some filler. And that filler material is going to take the shape of some ceramics, and I'll show you them. Because it's quite a large barrel this as well, I'm going to be using the large size ceramic, because I've got 3 different sizes. As you can see, that's quite large if you look at the size of it against my finger, whereas some of the stuff I use is much thinner, like this. You see the difference? Hopefully you can see the difference there. Little tiny thin one. I've even got smaller ones than that. Yeah, so all I'm going to do is put these in here as if they were stones. Like so. So that barrel, again, is 2/3 full. Give it a little bit of a check. As you can see, it's about 2/3 full. We're up to about here. So what we're going to do now, we're now moving on to the 220 grit. And what this is going to do, this is going to smooth out any of the surface scratches that the 80 grit's left. So we're going to put the same amount in. Found my spoon this time. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a bit extra for the sandman, like so. And I'm also going to put in again the borax, a couple of tablespoons of that. You already know the reason for that. It's going to thicken up that slurry and make it stick to the bones. Stick to the rocks, stick to the bones, stick to the rocks. Right, so we're going to put some water in here now. There we go, it's just below the surface. If you can see that. And now we can put the lid back on. Making sure it's well and truly seated. Slow down a bit there. Yeah, nice and flat, and then we can roll that band back up and it'll make a seal. Give it a little dry. And we'll plonk him back on. And we'll see him in a couple of weeks. Right, so here we are now going to change this grit. We've been on 220 grit for a week. Perhaps a little longer. I think it's about a week and a day, isn't it? Let's have a look at this. Ooh. chocolate again. So I'll take this over to the slops barrel and we'll drain it and see what we've got. These are the main, I think they're all Tiger's Eye, aren't they? That's the rocks. Looking superb. Look at that. That's a nice one. These are now considerably smoother than they were when they were on the 80 grit. A bit of sunstone I put in. Stunning rock, isn't it? So there's some lovely bits of Tiger's Eye in here. Amazing, and it's like silk trapped inside. So what I'll do with these, I'll give them a rinse off and then we'll get them back on. But this time what we're going to do, we're going to put them into 600 grit. So I'll put these now into 600 grit and we'll continue for another week. Right, so here we are, we're all ready to go back on. So now what we're actually on is 400 grit. So we're taking it down nice and steady. Get our lid back in. Oops, too far in. Like that. Make sure it's level all the way around. Nice and level, give it a squeeze. And roll that band up. That's now your seal. Give it a wipe. Let's turn the machine back on, because this one does like to be warmed up a little bit first. Give it a wipe. And then we can put him to bed for another week. So this is now on 400 grit. So I'll see you next. Right then, so we've been running a week on 400 grit and it's time to change the grit. So that's what this barrel looks like now. This that you can see here is just a minute amount of seepage, and as you can see it's actually dry. You get a little bit of residue, it just brushes off that. It's like salts almost. So let's have a look inside our barrel, see what we've got. Nice chocolate again. So that's what we've got now. So we'll tip it into this sieve and give it a quick rinse before we get it onto 600 grit. Right, so let's take a look at what we've got. Coming on nicely now. Give it a quick rinse. Coming on nice. Let me zoom in a bit for you. Get this to focus again. Focus. Do that. There you go. Set. And now we're focused again. Look at that. I can feel these are so smooth now. And they're only on 400 grit. So it's quite a bit quicker than, say, quartz, because it's a softer stone. So we're moving through the grits much quicker, but we're still getting lovely rounded stones, aren't we? So I shall get these rinsed and I'll put them onto 600 grit. So bear with me.
Right, so those are the stones, and as you can see we're quite a bit way down the tub now, so I'm going to have to put some more filler in. Bearing in mind that the other filler is now washed and put into a bag with the number 400 grit on it, so that we know that we can use that for 400 grit next time. This is a fresh batch. Might need a few more in there. The idea is that you need this to be 2/3, 3/4 full. Get some more in. Bit more. Of course, if I had more stones at this stage ready, I could use them instead, like, but I haven't, so. Now you'll note that this is considerably finer. Can you see the pale colour of it? That it's more like cement. It looks like cement powder rather than grit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's already enough in there for the sandman. And then we're going to put a little bit more borax in. Now when you're using this very fine stuff from 600 upwards, just be careful what you're doing with the dust, because bear in mind it is silicon carbide. Even though it's fine, it's still going to cut your lungs and stuff like that, so you don't want to be breathing this dust in. So ideally you're going to be wearing a mask. So let's get some water in here. Just about there. It's just touching the surface, so we'll get the lid back on. Like so. Squeeze all the way around, make sure that seal is actually in the groove, because there's a groove on the inside. Pull him up, and he's all ready. Give it a quick dry. Something I forgot to tell you as well so far is every week with this machine you need to oil the bearings, and the bearings are these bits here. And for these, all you do is lift it up at this end, lift it up, and pull it out. And it will come out like that. Right? So you put a little bit of grease on there, a little bit of grease on there, and slide it back in. See? It's easy enough to do, it's just something that you have to do every week, otherwise it'll start to slow down a little bit and the engine will have a bit of trouble turning it, so it's better to keep it maintained. You need to do that with this machine every week. So we'll get him back on. I mean, it will be alright because it's on, I've only just turned it off like enter. So we'll get that back on, and it's on now 600 for another week, and then I'll catch you then, switch that off. So it's been a week now and it's been rolling on 600 grit. So it's time to check the contents of our drum and change the grit, hopefully. This is, like I said, this has been on 600 grit. So now we're going to move it up to 1200 grit, which we would consider pre-polish. It's also the time to grease the rollers on our tumbler, just to make sure everything's running smooth. So let's have a look. We'll roll down this rubber band as usual. Like so, and get this out. See what we've got this turn. Ooh, nice chocolate look. Nice and foamy. So what I'll do, I'll get this drained out, and then I'll bypass the rinsing bit because you've already seen that, and then we'll have a look at them once I've drained it off. Right then, so those are our stones. I've washed them all off. I've scrubbed each one. We've got every little grain of grit off there, because that was 600 grit and we're now moving on to 1200 grit. You can see they're still matte. You know, when it dries it's still matte, because we haven't polished them yet. But we've got another grinding session to go on, but it's not actually going to grind these stones any smaller. It's just going to take out the finer scratches and whatnot before we go on to the polish. So that's what we're going to do now. We just need to put these back in our tub, which we can do now. And the tub I've washed out very, very well. So there's no remnants of any grit. This filler material is pre-prepared filler material, so it's not sharp. There we go. It's about the right amount in there. Now then, we're going to move on to, like I said, 1200 grit, which looks like cement dust. You see, very, very fine. And we're going to put, because it's a 6 pound barrel, we're going to put 6 pounds, 6 scoops in it. This is a 1 tablespoon scoop. So we've got 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That 6th one is for the sand man. So we've got our polish, our 1200 grit in there. And now we're going to add a little bit more borax or sugar, depending on your preference. Like so. And finally a little bit of water just below the surface of the stones, and that becomes the grinding material. Like so. Then we can turn the machine back on. Seat the lid. So, bring up the fastening retaining ring. Give it all a quick wipe, get it cleaned off. And we're away again. So we put that on now for another week. Actually, I might leave it a bit longer than a week, because this is quite a key stage. So I'm going to leave that. Okay guys, it's been another week. Let me just switch this baby off. So we've been on 1200 grit with our Tiger's Eye now for, it's actually been I think about 12 days, 13 days. So this, I'm hoping the stones in here are now ready to move on to polish. Now at this point I'm going to deviate from the normal, because what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to do an experiment with these. Because I've got a vibratory tumbler, which I'll show you in a second, which is everything's switched off, otherwise you won't be able to hear me. But I'll show you that in a second. Now that should do the best job when I use cerium oxide in there, and the little ceramic filler material, if you like, that's doing the polishing. That's been in there for a good few weeks, so it's nice and rounded, so it won't scratch. However, so I've noticed that some stones are actually coming out rougher than when they went in. So I'm not too sure what's going off. But other stones are coming out like glass. So I'm going to put half of these into the vibratory tumbler, and I'm going to put half of these into a traditional drum, a rotary drum, so we can see if there's any difference between the two. So that's going to be a nice little experiment. Anyway, what we're going to do, we'll check this now. So we're going to push this rubber band, the seal if you like, down, pop the seal and take our lid off. Ooh, and that's what we've got. Look, it's like well, I don't know, it's like a grey, creamy, chewed up tiger's eye colour, I would imagine. So let's get our little grid on there. I'll give it a pour. Right, so that's our stones and the filler material. So we'll give this a little rinse. Well, they're looking lovely, aren't they? They're looking absolutely lovely. Feeling lovely. So I think what I'll do with these now is I'll give them a proper rinse and then I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do with them. Right, so I've given them a good wash, and these are the stones that we've actually got out of there. That's how many we've got in the jug. Now before I actually do anything else, because I've got the facility, what I'm actually going to do for belts and braces is I'm going to drop these into the ultrasonic bath. Let me just point this up, see if I can move the camera. The ultrasonic bath is there in that corner. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to chuck these in. And then I'm going to give them a couple of minutes. Well, 5 minutes. I'll press it, but as soon as I press this button, it's going to make a right racket. So I'm going to give them 5 minutes buzzing time, and then that should vibrate away any 1200 grit that's remaining. That's the racket it makes. So I'm going to just kind of move these around in the water, and then I'm going to give them another good rinse because I want to make sure there's absolutely no 1200 grit on it, and then I'll be back. And that's that. So it's had a full 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fish those stones out and give them another rinse and then be back. Right, so I've given them another rinse. And that's what we've ended up with. Some lovely nice stones in there. But like I said, we're going to do an experiment with this. I'll do the experiment at this side first, and then whatever we've got left we'll throw into the tumbler. So I'm going to take one of the 3 pound barrels. They're called 3 pound, but they're not actually all 3 pound. I don't know why, that's just how it is. We'll take off that. And what we're actually going to be using in here is cerium oxide, which is the polish. So remove the lid. Like so. That's our barrel. So we'll pick out some stones. Now I think I'm going to put the large ones into the vibratory tumbler. I think. I might put a couple of big ones in here. So I'm going to pick some out to put in here. But I don't want to put any of this sunstone, because some of this sunstone's in here as well. Because this is one of them stones that sort of disintegrates. It actually got rougher in the vibratory tumbler. So I don't want to put that in. So I'm going to separate that out. Remember, this was filler material, wasn't it? Because it was about just a little bit softer than the tiger's eye. Bit there. I think that's about it. Little piece there. Right, so we're going to get some of these tiger's eyes in. Some of these are beautiful. I particularly like the ones that's got clear bits in. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up. Little clear bits in. Right, so that's all I'm going to put in this tub, because I do want some of these for, like I said, for experimenting in the other one. So I've kept them separate, and I'll put them in a second. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Now, as you can see, the barrel's not full, and in all stages it needs to be sort of 3/4 at minimum full. Don't want to be full, it wants to be, say, I don't know, 70%, 75%, maybe even up to 80% full, but no more than that, because they've got to be able to move. But I don't want to start scratching these stones by putting some more ceramics in. So what I'm actually going to be doing in here is I'm going to be using plastic beads for the filler material, and this will hopefully cushion the stones. So I'm going to put some beads in, and I'm going to take it up to that level, as we've just said, up to there. You see that? Now these beads float in water, so when you come to rinse it you can skim these off the surface and you can wash them and reuse them. But remember to bag the material if you're going to use it for anything else. I'm not going to use this for polish really. So that's our stuff in there, and we're now going to get the cerium, and this again is 1 tablespoon for each pound capacity of the barrel. So I'm using a nice clean spoon, and I'm going to give it, I'm actually going to give it 3, I think. 1, 2, only just enough. 3, and then we're going to add some water to it. Again, it's just to cover them stones, or in this case they're actually plastic beads now. Little water. Now you see the beads are floating, so you're going to have to guesstimate the level. It's just about there. Put a bit more in. Because don't forget, this dry material is going to get moist and it's going to absorb a lot of this polish. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little mix. See if it needs any more water. No, I think that'll be alright. And then we can put the lid back. Give it a little squeeze all the way around. On with the external cap. On with the washer. Tighten down that button. That is now ready to roll. So for the other half, or the other whatever's left, I'll show you what I'm going to do with these now. Right, so this is the top of the vibratory tumbler, and we're just going to remove this button. Obviously I've switched it off so that you can hear me, but I'll show you why I've switched it off in a sec. And that's what it's like on the inside. Now the pink is the cerium oxide, that's the colour of the cerium. And the little bits that you can see are ceramic chips. They're like bullet shapes, tubes and all sorts of things in here, but they're all different sizes and that as well. And they carry, as you can see, each one has got its surface covered in cerium paste, and that then rubs against the stones, and that's how it polishes. But if you're going to get one of these machines, you've got to be able to put it in a garage or somewhere where it's not going to disturb anybody, because when you switch it on, this is what you get. Now you can see the action. It's rolling those stones around and rubbing against them like this, rather than them bang bang bang. So let's just turn that off. So I'm going to grab these stones and I'm going to throw them in, and we'll be able to say adios for a couple of weeks. Grab my stones. There we are. So I'll get it fired up and then you'll see them vanish. As you can hear, it's quite noisy, but effective. Right, so I'll switch that off now. So that's about it. That's all I can show you now. We're going to put this one on the rotary tumbler with cerium and plastic pellets, and this one is just going to be in here until the polish, basically. No, I've not put any particular time on these. I've just checked on and seen when they're ready. And as soon as they're ready, I shall show you them in the finished form, and we'll be back to me on the camera. So I shall see you in a few weeks' time. Right, so it's been a further 11 days. We've been rolling this now, 11 days on the polish. This is what we set up last week. week before. So what we've got to do now, we're at the penultimate stage now, really. So we can take the button off and see what we've got inside. Now for you watching the video, it's probably only, I don't know, about 20 minutes worth of video. But in reality, this little video has taken about 8 weeks to do. Shift it off. Take off the outer cap. Ooh, look at that. Nice and pink. Ooh. Looks like salmon mousse. Now bear in mind that we can recycle these plastic pellets, so we're gonna, you know, once we've rinsed all this, we'll save them plastic bits. So let's get some water on. Magic, isn't it? Yeah, lovely. Now these should be polished, and all they're shiny now, but that's because they're wet. The critical thing is, are they also going to be shiny when they're dry? Let me just dry this on my shirt as a quick test. That's dry. So we now know that they're polished. So I'm going to give these a good rinse and then I'm going to be back in a sec. Right then, so these are the stones. They are now washed and effectively they are finished. But there is one final stage that's optional, which I think they will probably benefit from, and that is the burnish. And what I've actually done is I've washed each one of these stones individual. There's no polish on these whatsoever, none of that pink material left, no grit around. Obviously I'm going to use the same plastic pellets. I've rinsed them. Again, all the pink has gone, it's now perfectly clean. Same thing with the barrel, it's been washed out so it's immaculately clean. And what we're going to do, we're basically going to put all of this back into the barrel and just add a little bit of washing up liquid or soap. I'll show you what I mean. So we can put our stones back in. We can grab some pellets as well. Although they are a bit sticky. I mean, it's nice to see the stones at this stage actually remaining shiny, even though they're dry. Because it's the first part, it's the first time that we've seen them remain shiny throughout this process, once they're dry. Right, so you get the idea. I'm going to fill this back up now and put all these pellets back in here, and I'll be back in a sec. All the plastic pellets back in now, and as you can see, we've got the same, around about 80% full basket. So all I'm going to do now is with a little of the washing up liquid, only it's a little small amount like that, and some water, like that, and we can get that sealed again and put back on. But this time we're only going to be putting it on for a few hours, perhaps 6 or 7 hours, something like that, because all we're doing at this stage is ensuring that we get all of the polish, the remnants, off the stones. And the stones, because they're not being rubbed against any material now, they're rubbing against each other and the plastic pellets. That will also help bring out the shine. So we put this button back on and we'll let it run away now for, like I said, another probably 6 hours or so. And then I shall come back and show you the results, and we'll look at the individual stones on the table. See you then. Now you remember I put some of the stones into the vibratory tumbler as a bit of an experiment, you know, to find out which one would produce the best results. Now this is the ones from the vibratory tumbler, and as you can see, they've not got a shine. They've got a sheen, but a sheen is not a shine. So they've not done as well in the vibratory tumbler as they have in the rotary tumbler. So that's a lesson learned for these. It just seems to be too aggressive, and although it's doing the job at, like I say, giving it a sheen, it's not giving it a shine. So these ones I'll just chuck back into another batch of polished ones, and then we'll see them in a different video. And that were it, just a quick update on the experiment. Right, so I actually left these running overnight, so they've been basically running for, I don't know, about 20 hours, haven't they? And this is just soap and water and the plastic polishing beads. So let's have a look. It's been a little bit quicker of a process with these stones because they're a little bit softer, I think. But let's have a look. And that's what we've got, soapy water. And that's our buddies, look. Look at them. Aren't they looking delicious? So I'll get these rinsed off, and then I will do a little table cam, and I'll put one or two on a spinny thing so we can have a closer look. So here we are then, finally, we're at the end. I've now took these out, washed them, polished them, and as you can see they're now all lovely and polished. They're not wet, they are actually dry. And this is what we've got. Now there are some other ones that are in the rotary tumbler which didn't polish. They sheened but they didn't polish, and that was an experiment that we were doing, if you remember. So we now know that these are better off in the rotary tumbler rather than the vibratory tumbler. So I've put them other ones, the residual ones, back on another polish. But these are the ones that we've got finished. As you can see, lovely, lovely shiny things. So let me zoom in a little bit for you and I'll show you one or two. Like so. Have a look at this one. It shows that lovely shimmer effect. It's amazing material, isn't it? It looks like fibres inside. This is a nice one. If you look at that, can you see the metallic sheen on these stripes here? You see it? Is it picking it up? There, look. That's lovely, isn't it? I think that's hematite, I'm not too sure. Look at that shimmer. What an amazing thing. Hope it's picking it up. These are some of my favourite little pieces. I love this one. I like the way we've got all them lines in it, but we've also got that metallic. You can see again, see if I can catch it. Can't get that there, look. You see them two stripes? Kind of metallic. That's a lovely little piece, isn't it? Another one of them. This one. This has got that lovely striping effect in it all the way around, look. And this is a piece with them metal bits in. See? Looks like a shark tooth, that one. Look at the back of that. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. You can see them there, the metallic. Beautiful. So, I mean, each piece is individual, like.
No two bits are the same. Even if you wanted them to be, you wouldn't be able to do it. Absolutely lovely. This is a very intricately patterned one. Look at that. For a pattern, again metallic. We have got some of the red tiger's eye as well. See that shimmer? The red tiger's eye, there's not as much of that in here because there were only a little bit went in, but I like it, but I don't think I like it as much as I like the normal tiger's eye. This one's got nice stripes on it, that looks like feathers. Oh. Look at that. Magical. Oh, this is nice. This has got a clear bit at the top. You see? Weird. Like a little window. Beautiful. Right, well, I'll put a couple of these stones on the spinny thing and I'll just let them spin a little bit for you so that you can see them. And then we'll come back up to me on cam. Right then, so that's the process finished. It's been a fairly quick process really, although it's a long process, but it's quicker than most. This particular one, this run has taken, I think it's about 5 weeks, which is a good 3 or 4 weeks quicker than something like an agate or whatnot. And we've got some beautiful stones as you've just seen. What we've learned from this is that the stones are a bit softer than the normal stones, like a mixed bag that you get. They're a little bit softer than that, so we've been able to go a little bit quicker. We've also done an experiment in this video. That experiment was which is the best, the rotary tumbler or the vibratory tumbler for polishing purposes. Because you remember I bought the vibratory one just for polishing. Well, what I've actually found out, as you've just seen with the stones, is that the vibratory tumbler, although it's working perfectly, it's really, really good, it's not producing a shine, it's producing a sheen. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference. One of them looks nice, one of them looks superb. So we've learnt that it's no good in the vibratory tumbler. So that's, you know, I've worked out quite a few stones are no good in that vibratory tumbler. They actually get rougher, but some of them come up like glass. So it's quite a random thing. So I'm going to repurpose that machine and I'm going to use that to try and do the large pebbles, the ones that I want to actually shine up as a large pebble. And I think it might be working in there, but I'm not too sure if these are going to be too heavy to actually rise with the material that's in there, you know. So anyway, that's an experiment, another experiment we can do. Yeah, so I think these have come out really, really well. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I hope you've enjoyed following the process through. I hope you've learnt something from the process, because it's all a learning curve, isn't it? If you're wanting to purchase any of the machinery that I've been using, such as these crown machines, you can go to crownlapidary.co.uk. It'll divert you to our main site, but that's the easier. And you can buy the machines and the grits and stuff like that. Now, I don't sell stones, but listen to these. Isn't that a lovely sound? You can tell the polish, can't you, even without even... Just that sound, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful. I'm over the moon with the quality of these. They come out really superb. And everybody that comes in the shop that sees these is going to be picking them up and feeling of them because they are so tactile. It's amazing. Keep your eyes peeled. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Get your friends to subscribe. It all helps me out. The more people that subscribe, the more things I can do. Really, that's basically the top and bottom of it. We've got a lot of other rocks that are already in the process. I've turned all the machines off so you can hear me, but all of these things have got rocks in them at different stages, and they're all videos that are in the pipeline. You know, because I start a video and usually it's going to be 8 or 9 weeks before I can finish it, because I'm doing a little section every week kind of thing. So there's quite a few videos in the pipeline, such as we've got some mahogany obsidian, which is I think it's currently on 220 grit, and I think we've got some mixed rocks in there. We've got some serpentines that I'm doing over there. We've got some sodalite in this big barrel behind me. So there's quite a few videos that's going to be coming out in this kind of format, one way or another. But as I do the videos, as I get more experience with doing it for this, I'll be able to adjust the video so that I show you what you want to see like, rather than what I want to show you. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. So like I say, I hope you've enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up, and don't forget you can buy these materials over at the shop. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you later.